Greetings, it is I, Tantus Naravan Dracovin, Lord and Emperor of the Dracovin Empire, and welcome. It is time to continue our discussion on Vampire the Masquerade, the clans and bloodlines of it. Where we last left off, we began talking about the Sabbat, the Sombra. Now it is time for the next of the Sabbat clans, the Tzimisce. So the Tzimisce are a clan of scholars and flesh shapers, the other member of the Sabbat. Their disciplines are Vicissitude, animalism, and auspex. If you wouldn't call one inhuman or sadistic, they would kind of appraise you for it, that you've kind of described them in a more appropriate manner, but then they would correct you on your definition of sadistic, that you haven't quite gotten it right. They've left their human condition, their human side behind, to dive deeper into the aspects of vampirism. At a casual glance, casual conversation, you might find one pleasant and easy to get along with. But there is something hidden there. Something deep behind the mask that they show to the world. Something alien and monstrous. Now their clan weakness is that they must sleep with 2 handfuls of dirt from a land that was important to them as their life as a mortal. Now, should they fail to do this when they rest, well, they half their dice pools for the next 24 hours. And this halving compounds and continues until they get down to 1 dice to their pool, at a minimum. Once they get back some dirt and basically rest for 24 hours with it, they recover these penalties that they were accruing. Now, the antediluvian of the Tzimisce is said to be dead. Said to have been killed during the Anarch Revolt of the Dark Ages. But this doesn't mean that the Tzimisce don't give their respect to him. They believe in tradition and history, and they see the ideals of their founder and listen to them as a kind of gospel for the various acts that they do. He's also known as the Elder. So the Elder is said to have these magical aspects to him, to have these energies. Maybe he was an experiment of Enoch's. Maybe there was something else in his creation. But rather, beyond all these myths, all these legends about the Elder and his origin and the early days of his existence, it is known that along the way he developed a discipline, a power known as Vicissitude. The flesh-crafting power that the Tzimisce are known for. It is felt that the Elder himself is a visual manifestation of this very power, of Vicissitude itself. Now, even before Rome came to think, even before the Deluge, Tzimisce and his kin moved into the Eastern European mountains. There, they found a bond. The Elder found a bond with the demon Kupala, who dwelled within those mountain range, the Carpathian Mountains. And it was through this bond that Kupala's night did occur, where those that, the kin, the childe of Tzimisce and himself, saw Vicissitude gain near godly status, and that's when they carved out a chunk of these mountains, killing the lupine, the garu that had existed there, driving many of them out, and claiming it as a home of their own, so that the Tzimisce existed deep beneath the Carpathian Mountains, dwelling beneath them and existing in this land. It was their bond with the demon Kupala that actually attempted to mostly free it, and this battle against the lupines preventing it. Though there were 2 chains that kept it, the Carpathian Mountains themselves, and Tzimisce the Elder. He was connected with it, and through them, through that power, that is where the energy of Kupala went, hence the Kupala's night. The time that they gained so much power is this kind of bond between the demon and the clan, which has created this great strength in them, and carved out this realm. This private war against the Garu of Eastern Europe has driven many of them out of the land, and they have succeeded at it with the help of Onyx Sorcery and flesh-crafted war ghouls. This means they have accomplished task of securing this territory as their own. Though there have been Garu crusaders who have united up together to attempt to purge the Tzimisce from this realm, they have been unsuccessful dislodging them from their control over the Carpathians. It was here that the Elder embraced many of his most powerful childae, some of those that would become known for their various names. And of course, these descendants shared a sort of madness with Tzimisce, the Elder, and sort of sadism. And it expressed itself in the experiments and creations of those Tzimisces that descended from him in such great things as the experiments within Constantinople. And of course, the Cathedral of Flesh, the sort of power center within the Carpathians, where the Tzimisce effectively ruled from. Now, as many of the vampires looked to Rome, the kindred, the Tzimisce looked east. They looked to Constantinople. And of course, when they moved into there, they found great strength and power in their knowledge and in their gaining of scholarly knowledge. But other vampires came too, and it seemed like there was this uneasy peace between the various clans of kindred that existed within Constantinople. A strange thing, even at this time. The Orbertus Order of Revenant Ghouls was established during this time. One of the Revenants that works under the Tzimisce. I'll talk about them later. But they were actually instrumental in saving much of the information from the Library of Alexandria, keeping it from being lost when the tragedy that occurred there destroyed it. Now we move into the Dark Ages, of course. Now during this time, the Tzimisce voivodate within Eastern European was the kind of confederacy of their small kingdom groups, and they found great strength and power within this area. But they did find a couple of threats. The first threat was, of course, Tremere. The Tremere were born within this area, and born from their own blood. This meant that they had to eliminate these interlopers, and they began the Omen War against them, and all these forces at every side bounding down upon the Tremere, and they still were unable to defeat them. In fact, the Ventru launching an attack against them probably helped in this manner, preventing them from launching more forces against the Tremere, even with all these other enemies, other clans, mages themselves, bearing down on this fledgling group, effectively preventing it from ever being wiped out. And the Anarch Revolt stopped all this. It prevented any continued aggression against the Tremere. Granted, many Tzimisce still hate the Tremere with a passion to this day, even if their youngers don't understand. The younger generations, or the younger vampires, don't understand why they really hate it nowadays. Of course, the Voivodate would fall soon after here, leading into the centuries in the future. But the Anarch Revolt itself is an important event. It is said that the Tzimisce Lugoj stormed with forces into where Tzimisce the Elder was, and slayed him. Basically destroying him, getting rid of the antediluvian, and founding the way for the Tzimisce to become one of the main groups within the Sabbat. Many elders were said to have died in this raid. Not all of them, though. This is where the power of the Tzimisce changes hands in a way. But there's more to the story that we will talk about later. Now, the Victorian Age saw the decline of the Tzimisce. First, things like Bram Stoker's Dracula were published. Now, you'd say, why does this matter? Because Dracula was a Tzimisce. Or the character that Dracula was based upon the legends was for. So detailed an actual member of the clan. It introduced the people to the Tzimisce's homeland, Transylvania. And this is an important thing. The Tzimisce had ruled over this land through their own uses of monstrosities and fear and control. And with the advent of travel and spread of communications, they could no longer keep their creatures hidden. That now peasants would learn of things in the outside world were better. They would rise up with spikes and stacks to kill these monstrosities they were creating. The fact is that superstition and folklore were dying to science. And those were the things that the Tzimisce had been using to maintain their control over these areas. But this could be called a double-edged sword. While creatures like the Tremere, like their hated enemies, use this point in time to rise up the masses to overthrow much of their control over various areas. It also saw an increase in knowledge of the body, knowledge of medical science. Information about anatomy and the way things worked within the body added greatly to how the manipulation of vicissitude and its knowledge could be used. Because flesh crafting, knowing more about the flesh, means that you're more adept and willed at understanding it. So there was this greater increase in the abilities of Vicissitude because of the very knowledge that helped destroy them in this case. The Tzimisce continued to decline into the modern age, into a point in time where it looked like they were a dying breed almost. But this doesn't mean anything, because there was a greater plan at work. Lambrak Ruthven, the sire of Dracula, wandered the world, the territories of the Sabbat, in a sort of haze, until he came to New York City, to its sewers, where he learned the truth. Lujov had died that night. Tzimisce lived. Tzimisce had replaced him with a fresh-cracked doll, and Tzimisce went into Topor deep within New York. And now was some kind of strange, fleshy growth, almost fungal-like, spreading over a massive area, the tri-state area, in fact, kind of infecting that area. He resisted the call of Tzimisce, telling him to basically become one with him, and went to warn the others, to spread word of this strange monstrosity growing in this area. But no one would listen. And that takes us into one of the Gehenna storylines. Now, historically, Tzimisce organized themselves into broods, with one sort of elder at the top and many others of their bloodline beneath them. That they had sort of violent, incestuous relationships between each other where they used strength, power, and blood bonds to control each other. Now, above all of this, of course, was the Council of Devotees, basically the central government of the Tzimisce, guided by a viceroy. The viceroy was supposed to rule for all eternity, basically elected by his kin. But there was oftentimes things that occurred that made that changes in viceroys did often occur. Now the thing is, this organization lasted deep into the Dark Ages. In fact, it was one of the more important groups. This council effectively had between less than a dozen to over 100 members within it, basically being the major ruling body of the clan. Post the Anarch Revolt, this has all gone away. Tzimisce have become much more solitary creatures, living amongst themselves, occasionally embracing when they feel like they have the need for it. They often do, unfortunately, look for traits which are often associated with things like sadists or serial killers. This doesn't mean that they look for a psychopath. They look for dignity along with that, and a certain way of putting themselves out. Kind of gives you an idea of the type of gentleman that they're looking for. Now, in this modern day, the Tzimisce look to a sort of clan leader called a Vivode, effectively a religious leader of the clan more than a powerhouse of the clan. They also look to respect those that unlock their Zulo shape, effectively the fourth rank in the Vicissitude discipline, unlock this ability, and those that unlock it are seen with much more respect than those that do not. So that is a sort of level up in the hierarchy without actually getting higher in the hierarchy. Within the Sabbat, the Tzimisce are spiritual leaders or scholars. In fact, they have very little influence or actual action within the clan, and it oftentimes leads to people thinking, are they actually even members of the Sabbat? But they are staunch believers in the various beliefs that the Sabbat have, and support and push them forth as much as possible. So they do have that connection there. Though there are plenty of Tzimisce members who will find themselves more loners off in areas, traditionally Eastern European, the traditional area of the Tzimisce, where they will say the words, give the thanks to the Sabbat, but really do no actions to support them, sort of keeping more to themselves and being like, hey, yeah, go Sabbat. Not those actual words. This lip service is given some leeway, as the Tzimisce are very powerful, and most of these individuals that are doing this tend to be the more powerful members of the Tzimisce. So it's not always helpful to, give them the talk back about that. You might find yourself in an awkward situation if you don't listen to your elder, so to say. Now let's talk about the variants. Let's talk about the Kuldun. The Kuldun are different than the normal Tzimisce, as their discipline of Vicissitude is replaced by Onyx Sorcery. The Kuldun are seemingly their own variant, but it's really hard to say whether they're just not special members of the original clan rather than a clan variant themselves. They have mastered called Onyx Sorcery. Effectively, they are said to be the earliest sorcerers, that the Tzimisce have mastered a level of sorcery. These here have done so, and the fact is, though, they are greatly respected by other Tzimisce for their mastery of this powerful skill. Onyx Sorcery can be attempted by any Tzimisce, but very few survive the attempts to master it and gain powers in it, and it's those that are put into this sort of group here. Whether they are not their actual bloodline or not is hard to say. Now, the old clan Tzimisce does not have Vicissitude also. They have Dominate instead. The old clan Tzimisce are unique at that they are older than, of course, the joining of the Sabbat. They are elders that have found themselves more individual back in the old days, in Eastern Europe. And of course, most of them met their final death, but this unique group still exists, kind of secluded away from the world. These are the Dracul, and do not consider themselves a bloodline, actually, even though they sort of are. They generally do have some problems with the Sabbat, but are almost all kind of left alone at this point in time because of the power that they display. Now, they are very individualistic, though they do have some times where they meet and have groupings. The Renata League is basically a grouping of them that helps protect their territories and keeps it safe. In fact, like, calling them the Old Clan is kind of a misnomer. They're just basically older members of the clan that have never really changed. They believe in the old ways, the ways of things before the Dark Ages. But things have changed since then, so they don't tend to fit in as much. They can still create their own broods, but traditionally when they do, they use lots of blood bonds and more to make sure there's this intense loyalty with their brood, that effectively they are their shields, their guardians amongst death. Now, the old clan does remember the treachery of the young clan, and especially look down at them because they refer to them as soul eaters. Effectively, they believe that the control of the antediluvian lays within Vicissitude. Those that practice Vicissitude are effectively connecting themselves to Tzimisce the Elder. And so they, as not practicing it, don't have this connection. And effectively, the rest of them are just extensions of his will almost, controlled through the Vicissitude. Now, there are no Tzimisce anti-tribute. Not truly. There are handfuls that will occasionally, like very small amounts, that will be different than the norm, that won't join with the Sabbat, and join with the Camarilla. But this is really only temporary. Tzimisce go where their personal business, where their quests, their missions will take them, and should their wants align with that of what the Camarilla can provide with them, then of course they will side with them. But once they get what they want, they have no reason to stay with this organization anymore, and will leave it. They have no true loyalty the same way. So of course they don't have a loyalty to the Sabbat either. They have a loyalty to themselves, these Tzimisce that may temporarily join with the Camarilla. Even before the rise of the Sabbat, the Tzimisce themselves looked down on mortal existence and mortal connections. In fact, when the Sabbat came out after the Anarch Revolution, they are one of the major sources of the paths of enlightenment. They have either helped create them or helped to develop them. Their idealism is all around the fact that one should forget about the commonisms, the ways of humanity, and embrace that which is vampirism. So they themselves, very much more than any other clan, disregard humanity and accept one of the paths of enlightenment as their own. Something that they just do not believe in the aspects of humanity existing anymore. Everything about Tzimisce culture, the way they do things, the way they act, all of it revolves around Vicissitude, the altering and shaping of flesh, the altering and changing of their physical ability into mannerisms that help them elevate themselves deeper into the vampiric state. Oftentimes, they look to Vicissitude in order to solve their problems. If they need something done with muscle, then of course they will fleshcraft some kind of creature that will have the strength in order to assist them. So Vicissitude tends to be their go-to for solving any problem, more than any other discipline. Of course, they are the last protectors of Onyx Sorcery, as I said. Now, the last thing I do want to talk about is an important part of the Tzimisce, the Revenants. The Revenants are something the Tzimisce have effectively created. Ghoul families. They're much different from your average ghouls as they pass it on through their bloodline. They've become almost their own supernatural creatures, that they breed and have children who are also Revenants. Revenants enjoy the fact that they have some vampire blood produced within their bodies, but yet they also have human blood produced within them. So they live different than normal ghouls. They aren't immortal, not like normal ghouls. They don't have enough vampire blood for that. They live long lives. But they also have formed themselves into these powerful families. They do believe themselves superior to humans and superior to normal ghouls, and Tzimisce oftentimes look to them as a stock for embracing, as a source of basically creating the new generation of Tzimisce. Now, there are 4 current bloodlines of Revenant. The Baraviches, the Grimaldi, the Obateris, and the Xantoses. The degree to which Vicissitude has ingrained itself into the very existence of the Tzimisce is impressive, even among other disciplines and their clan disciplines. They even use it to experiment on themselves, so very few Tzimisce still look human, to say. Many of them have used fleshcraft upon themselves to improve themselves, to alter themselves. So that the Tzimisce are these masters of this experiment, diving into the depths of their very own power by either using it in the world or on themselves. And the obsession goes beyond anything that any of the other clans do when it comes to their own disciplines. They just rely on it and grasp every part of their being to vicissitude more than anything else. Torture is an important part of the Tzimisce. They believe in causing pain in others. It is an important part of their culture. They aren't called fiends by other kindred for just any reason. They don't have the same sort of psychological connections to the mortal world that would make it that they wouldn't do such things as with the Camarilla would do. But talking of psychological, that is an important part of their entire routine, especially when it comes to tormenting one. They have to find ways of making it maximum. So not only are they physically tormenting someone, they are psychologically dealing blows to them at the same time as they commit to this. They will use all of their disciplines to their maximum ability. Of course, this means using vicissitude to cause horrible deformations on their target in order to torture them and cause them such great pain. The fact is that physical pain and torment are the most common ways that they do these, though there are plenty of beings which they may attempt to torture which would be resistant to the pain or the ability of causing this physical damage. They can also use emotional torture and aren't against mastering that in order to get the point across of what they want with this torment. Because the fact is, the torment itself is what they're aiming for, not any kind of information. It is the pain and suffering they're causing that is what they're attempting to do. So they can be masters of physical, psychological, and emotional torment on their targets. Now, in retrospect, there's also a level of hospitality to the Tzimisce that is unmatched. They have this powerful belief system in being the most generous hosts to those that would be their guests. Think of Dracula with his hosts. A Tzimisce, remember? The way that they treat them, they have these sets of rules, but the rules are two-sided. And the reason there is a double standard to these rules is that it must protect both the guest and the host. The point is that you're going to treat your guest with a powerful respect, as long as the guest stays within certain guidelines to being a guest. But as long as they are your guest, you must treat them with the utmost kindness and respect. Kindness to what a Tzimisce understands. The older the Tzimisce is, the more seriously they take these, almost as laws. They can take these kind of tenets of how to treat a guest. And if the guest should overhand the rules here, well, of course, then you're free to slaughter them during the day for all you want, just because they've been rude guests. But on the other hand, transgressions are not seen. Minor ones in the way that you would host someone, they can be ignored. Major ones, you might not have anybody showing up to meet you anymore, and you might be looked down upon in certain ways, or Even they might have sent someone to kill you during the day because you've done such terrible things to the entire clan in a way. Tzimisce look rather irrelevantly to mortals and their lives before embracing them. It's very selfish the reason a Tzimisce would embrace someone. They oftentimes look for something in them, but what it is up to the Tzimisce. Whether you're embracing a scholar or a serial killer, they oftentimes look at someone that has a special skill, a specialization in their abilities that seem relevant to what the Tzimisce is interested in, the sire is interested in, and therefore then chooses them because of it. Tzimisce have a general disdain for mortals, though, but this also means that they are willing to embrace many different things. There are many magical-based creatures that they have embraced into their bloodlines and therefore added magical ability to it. Kind of a strange sort of thing that they have very little choice and very little distinction in what they change to be Tzimisce, and it is only important that they become a Tzimisce. Now, similar to the Sombra, they had a different symbol when they originally were created, and there was another change. Between 2nd edition and Revised, they created Soul Eater, basically a powerful infestation that was effectively a manifestation of Tzimisce the Elder, deep within the spirits of, or I guess the bodies and souls of the younger Tzimisce, effectively meaning they were corrupted and almost doomed. Now that has had some controversy, so they've changed it more that Soul Eater is a reference to the actual almost disease that Vicissitude infects those that take it. So rather than actually being a more powerful manifestation of Tzimisce itself, it's more that Vicissitude itself is almost alive and an infestation, and therefore it kind of ingrains itself into you. An interesting juxtaposition from how it originally was. So that's it for today. I introduced you to the clan of the Tzimisce. Inhuman, monstrous in a way, but yet very good hosts. Lovers of torture, masters of fleshcraft, using the discipline of vicissitude to alter flesh of not only their own, their ghouls, and others unwillingly. They are interesting, that in a way they are extensions of their antediluvian. Many of them are. But there are others that aren't. The clan itself declines, but also has a great power to it, and great respect. A power within the Sabbat that is not matched by any, so that they can give these little lip service, or disrespect almost to the Sabbat, and still get away with it. The Tzimisce are an interesting clan, with a deep history, that tends to revolve around vicissitude. The power that not only gives them their strength, but in a way leads to their downfall. So, if you have any questions, comments, anything you want to say, anything you think I left out, please leave in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe. It's so support for the channel, the empire, the work I do. If you want to show some extra support, you can always check out my Patreon, link description below. But regardless, until the next time, I bid you farewell.